Okay, so this is going to be a really quick video, just kind of going through the very basics of Visual Studio for Mac. I'm not going to insult anybody's intelligence by telling you how to download and install an application from the internet. What I will tell you is that what you need to have installed in order to do all of the work in the class is the desktop application with C# workload and the web application with C# workload. If you have both of those installed, everything should go fine. It should be 2 checkboxes during the installation. If you miss them, you will always be able to go back and add them. It's not a big deal, and we're going to go through what these look like in the code along. Everything should be kind of okay. If you can't figure it out, please send me an email. I'm happy to help. So here, what we have after you launch the application is you basically just get this very basic screen. You can open an existing project or you can create a new one. What we want to do is create a new project. And my only recently used template is a console application for C#, which is the one we want. If you open this for the first time, obviously you're not going to have a recently used one. And so what you're going to want to do is come to .NET Core, which is the cross-platform version of the framework. And you want to choose application. Console application is the one that's the first under general. Then you can obviously select the language that you want, but C# is what we're going to deal with here. So after you have selected a template, you want to go to next. You want to name it something. So I can name this calculator app. This shows you all of the files that will be generated as a result of creating this project. You can change the location if you like. You can use Git here if you want, but we're going to set all of that up later next week at some point. So here, all I'm going to do is click Create. And if you look in Finder back here, Calculator app was indeed created under projects. If I go inside of here, I have the solution file. I also have the .cs project file that we were talking about last lecture. So that simple act of just sort of creating the solution inside of the IDE has done everything that we kind of need it to in terms of metadata. We don't have to deal with anything kind of creating those manually. So the Solution Explorer is drastically different. The sort of UI is very different between the Windows version and the Mac version of Visual Studio. However, the functionality is essentially the exact same. You have a code view right here that shows you all the source code. You can go through all of the projects and all the solutions in a Solution Explorer over here on the left. Basically what you want to do is you want to go through the process of maybe generating Hello World and running that. So here we already have the Hello World statement typed out for you. Console is basically an object that gives you access to terminal. Write line is a method on that object that does kind of the obvious. It prints this line to the console. If you go up here and you click Run, we can just start without debugging. This should go through and run all of the code. We can click OK. I want it to have access to the terminal, and so it will run it in a separate window. You can also configure this to run in the same window, but it doesn't really matter to me. It's all the same. If you watched the Windows version, Windows requires that you add your own console.read line to the program here to make a person have to type a key in order to exit the window. The Mac version does not require you to do that. So here all we have to have is sort of console.write line and we're done. So we can terminate the process, or we could have typed a key, typed a letter to exit. Either way. We can also set breakpoints. So I can set a breakpoint here. I can go to run with debugging. And now I have stopped on this line. So if I go to my terminal, I see nothing. If I want to step over that line, I will then see my expected result. And then I have nowhere else to go. So if I step next time, the whole thing is sort of run start to finish, and I get this press any key to continue part that's actually generated by the code itself, by the environment. So we can get out of that. Okay, so the main take-home lessons about Mac are that if you cannot tell from my kind of bungling around moving windows, I am extremely unfamiliar with the high points of Mac, or even the intricacies of Mac use. So I use it basically to record things, and I have a version of Visual Studio on Mac specifically to help people that are getting bugs or error messages they can't figure out. I at least have a version that I can look at myself and kind of try to help you work through them. But all of the code alongs in the class will be me in the Windows version where I actually kind of know my way around. So if you have a Mac and you are working on your Mac, it will take you a little bit of extra time to go through and maybe find all of the intricacies and the equivalences between the things that we're doing on the PC version on the Mac. But everything should be possible on the Mac. And if you have specific questions, if you're encountering weird issues, I have a version myself that I can use to help you sort out whatever those issues are. So the one mega big deal is that when we start talking about persistence, the class is specifically geared toward persistence in .NET. What that means is that about half, maybe 75% of that unit or that module will be talking about SQL Server, which will not run on your Mac. So for the people who are running on Mac, we're going to also talk about how to interact with MongoDB from C# so that you can experience what persistence looks like, putting things into and taking things out of persistence. But the bulk of it will be on a Windows machine. So for that unit, I'm happy for you to follow along. I'm happy for people to pair up if that's a thing that you can do, or we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get there. But I know from the first iteration of the class, we had a kind of significant problem with people running Mac not having access to the Entity Framework components that we need and not being able to spin up their own SQL Server without running in a VM or something like that. So that is one thing to be aware of. If you have the choice between Mac and PC, running PC for this course will make your life better because the .NET Framework and C# and Visual Studio and all of that kind of stuff is first party on a Windows environment and not necessarily as first party on a Mac. So with that, that's really all the information that I have to get you started on the Mac version, but it should be very straightforward, be a little bit familiar if you've used something like CLion or something like that. All of these IDEs are largely the same. The bells and whistles are just in different, slightly different places. So if you have questions, please let me know. And now we will do the code walkthrough, code along. Thanks so much.